presented by our friends over at Barnett, Howard, and Williams Law Firm, bhwlawfirm.com if you want to learn more about them. Reed, we'll get right into it, man. I see you're in the chat here. Reed, what do you got for us?
Maddie's a bitch.
Who is?
Maddie.
All right, Maddie, do you need to respond to that? You're welcome to hop on the mic. He's just giving you a heart sign, Reed. I don't think he wants to beef with you.
That's a smart man right there.
Who would win in an Oklahoma drill, you or Maddie?
That's not even a question. Come on
It's
now.
not even a question. I'd probably put you at like minus 350 on the money line, Reed.
I appreciate that.
Reed, what are your thoughts on TCU's loss to West Virginia?
Makes me feel a little better. But I also knew TCU was a fraud all of last year, so I mean, now they're just getting exposed for the real team they are.
Yeah, they did play for a national title last year, but you're sticking with fraudulent.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Michigan was a decent amount of a fraud last year too. So
Yeah, I mean they don't play in a real conference, so I guess that's fair.
yeah, the first time they saw 4 receivers, they just didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
So now TCU, not a great team. Lose Garrett Riley, lose Max Duggan, lose Quentin Johnson, any shred they have of an offense. And then, I mean, hey, I guess Mr. Neil Brown just saved his job. I mean, beating 2 incredible teams one after the other.
he just refuses to die. He's 4-1. They're 2-0 in the Big 12. They were picked last, and I remember him going off at us at Big 12 Media Days this summer. He told everybody how much he disagreed with us, said we're not going to finish last. And then he's out of the gates here with wins over the teams that were picked 4th and 5th in the conference. And so I guess I got to respect it. It's been ugly. I mean, their wins over Pitt, Tech, and TCU were all close, kind of just gritty, 20-something to 20-something type wins. But I don't think anybody in Morgantown is going to complain about it. So I do think he is getting safer and safer in terms of any hot seat chatter. Rob, I'm sending you the co-host invitation. I really want Rob's thoughts on Neil Brown right now. I need that like I need air. Um, I thought they were going to blow it a couple times, and I guess maybe had a little bit of luck with TCU's field goal misfortunes. Rob, is Neil Brown back?
He never left, baby.
He never left. We never doubted him, did we?
Yeah, I doubted him a lot. What is Sonny Dykes doing at the end? Taking a timeout, not taking a timeout. Even if he made that field goal, there's 46 seconds instead of 30. And then kicking the field goal before. What was he? What was that?
I don't know. They had very little offensive momentum in the second half. I feel like when you're driving and it's 4th and 1, you should go for it, in my opinion. I don't know why they kicked that first field goal. And then, am I blind, or was Chandler Morris's like both knees and elbow down before he threw that incomplete pass on the last play?
Yes. And how is that not intentional grounding? You don't know where the hell it's going.
Yeah, I don't know. I was shocked when they called it a sack on the field, so they went as far as to overturn it, not just upholding it. I have no clue what was going on right there. But anyway, so West Virginia, I think you tuned in right as I was kind of giving my thoughts on them. Hasn't been pretty, but they're 4-1. They're 2-0 in the Big 12. They're kind of just this gritty team that's going to out ugly you. They're playing time of possession, and it's worked. I don't think they're going to finish last, which is where they were picked. We were one of the few media members that I know of that made their ballots public that didn't have them last. Now, we didn't have them, 4-1 and 2-0, but thoughts on them, and then we'll get to TCU right after that.
Yeah, West Virginia escaped twice in 2 Big 12 games. I don't think they really dominated all. They lost some really big players today due to some really bad injuries, it looked like. So that's something to look at moving forward. Neil Brown Tried to give it away at the end of the Tech game, throwing the ball. Tried to give it away today on 3rd and 1, rolling Garrett Green out, not running the ball on 3rd and 1. That's going to come back to bite them at some point, but they're winning, and they're winning ugly, but they're still winning. So kudos to Neil Brown. He's gotten out of his way for the most part and not screwed anything up.
Yeah, I was on that 3rd and 1. I mean, it's so easy. You have a 245-pound running back. You got 2 shots to get 1 yard if you're willing to go for it on 4th down. And instead, we're like moving the pocket. And it looked like on that play, Garrett Green re-injured his ankle. So obviously, he was kind of playing through it for most of the game. But I'm curious what their quarterback situation looks like going forward and how bad he re-aggravated that. But they're it's not quite October yet, and they're knocking on the door of bowl eligibility, and so I think that's probably enough to save his job at the very least. And who knows? I mean, maybe their play style is so different than what other Big 12 teams are doing, and I don't know their schedule, but if they have Cincinnati, I think that's a super winnable game that they ought to be favored in. So I don't know. I think he's kind of backing up some of his talk from Big 12 media days, and yeah, they look decent enough to beat up on the bottom of the conference at the very least. So
I'm ready to say they won't finish last.
yeah, me too. TCU, on the other hand, I don't. So I kind of tuned in for most of the 4th quarter, and it looked like they had a really bad 3rd quarter on offense. Not sure exactly why and how they stalled out, but this is a team I sort of have mixed feelings on. They looked really efficient against Houston. They, they beat a pretty strong Group of 5 team in SMU in the non-con. It was looking to me like their loss to Colorado wasn't so bad, but Colorado the last couple weeks, and even going back to their win over Colorado State, looks like maybe not quite the team that we thought out of the gates after they beat TCU in Nebraska. So I'm not quite sure where to peg TCU. I guess probably somewhere in the middle of the Big 12. Like, it's certainly not an easy win, but I think they've probably got their limitations. Do you kind of agree with that overall assessment?
Yeah, in the second half, beyond those 2 field goal drives, they had 4 yards.
Wow.
So yeah, they stalled out for sure. Chandler Morris, I can't get a read on him week to week. That offense, I can't get a read on. They have some athletes, but it's just nowhere near what they were last year. So defensively, I think they're competitive. I would put West Virginia, TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, Kansas State, maybe all in that middle tier where you just don't know what's going to happen week to week, but they're competitive.
Yeah, I think that is probably the. I think you hit the nail on the head. You don't know what's going to happen with a team like Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, even within the same game, not just week to week, but like one quarter to the next. Um, we'll move on. That was probably the most entertaining game of the Big 12 slate this weekend, and good for West Virginia to get to 2-0 in Big 12 play. This is Gauchos After Dark, sponsored by our friends over at Barnett, Howard & Williams, bhwlawfirm.com. Do you want to go back now to Friday night, Rob, before we work through the rest of Saturday?
Let's do it.
So BYU becomes the first of the newcomers to win a Big 12 game, although I will note, and we'll get to this later, no newcomer has beaten a remaining team just yet. But BYU wins in Provo. This was a weird line. They were favored by 3, and then it swung to like Cincinnati by 1.5, and I think it settled really close to, it might have gone back to BYU -1. But Cincinnati, I think they've got a defense that can hang tough. They kept OU in check, but they're just so limited on offense, and it caught up to them. BYU had a really terrible first 29 minutes of that game offensively, and then hit 3 really big pass plays before halftime to take the lead, and I don't think relinquished it in the second half. I think they've also got their limitations. They're running a true freshman at running back. Keaton Slovis, makes some good plays, but I don't know. Seems to still miss on a lot of throws, and any guy who's at his third school, I am always skeptical of. But they do get the win. Bounce back after losing to Kansas, and so they're first on the board in terms of newcomers with a Big 12 win. And that home atmosphere, that looks legit. Like they, in my opinion, have belonged in the Power Five for a long time, and I'm sure that was a rewarding win for their fan base. Rob, are you still on, or is it glitching where I can't hear you again? Shoot.
Anybody else lose Kyle there? I think we lost Kyle, or else he's talking and I can't hear him.
Reed,
Give me some emojis if we lost Kyle there on the Gambling Gauchos After Dark presented by BHW. Okay, we'll try to get Kyle back in.
Heard both y'all loud
Oh,
and
here he
clear.
is.
is this working?
Kyle, can you
Yeah,
hear
I can
me?
hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Reed, can you hear either one of us or both of us?
Let me text Kyle real quick that he's been lost.
Yes, I can. We can hear both y'all. No problems.
Okay, well then I'll just shut up then.
Here, let's get Ty in here. Ty, if you can hear us or one of us, go ahead. It's your turn.
I was just going to say that we can hear both of you. You both cannot seem to hear each other, but we can hear both of you trying to connect with each other again. And it's very hard for us.
Thanks, Elon. I don't know what the deal is. This happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we want you guys to be together and to communicate effectively with each other. It's very hard for us to sit by and watch this.
Yeah. Well, here, let's see if maybe bringing Rob back in does anything. Rob, can you hear me now?
Classic ring around there.
All right, I guess we're back. I had some really long thoughts on BYU. I guess you didn't hear any of that?
I heard most of it, I think.
Okay, yeah. The main thing is I'm really happy for their fans because they've got a legit Power Five home atmosphere. We're gonna have to go deal with it in a few weeks, but they're first on the board among the newcomers with a conference win. So good for them.
Yeah, that home atmosphere looks incredible with the fire breathing and the dancers there in the fourth quarter. The fire jump rope with the Cougar, whatever his name is. Pretty
Cosmo,
awesome.
yeah, Cosmo's legit.
Cosmo, yeah.
Cosmo was like twirling cheerleaders and like doing backflips at media days. They have a very intense, I think, mascot selection process.
Or it's just one guy for 40 years.
Maybe, yeah. Does anybody know? Does Cincinnati and Houston play each other this year?
I would have to look.
If they do, I think that might be for last place.
I think you're right. We did top 5 last week. Who are the bottom 5 this week, huh?
I'd say it's those two. I would still put probably Oklahoma State and Iowa State in there, and I don't know. West Virginia certainly earned their way out of it for now. Um, Baylor, I would say. Weird case because they came out of nowhere in the second half today. I guess that's a good segue. I'm still very skeptical of Baylor, although they did have a good comeback. Were you able to watch any of that UCF Baylor game? Okay, is it happening again? Rob, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I think I was muted that time. That was my bad.
Yes, I can hear you.
Use your error. They're going to know I'm dumb. Let's see. A big fourth quarter from Baylor on the comeback. Special teams play, a scoop and score. Just an incredible effort. And Gus Malzahn went full dumbass. I don't know what he was doing in the fourth quarter. And Dave Aranda tried. Dave Aranda. Oh man, I don't think either of them are very good end game coaches. Dave Aranda lost that game, or nearly lost that game, though. I don't know what he was doing.
So what the hell happened? I missed it, and I pulled up the drive chart, and it was like Baylor 3 and out, UCF one play for 76 yards, Baylor 3 and out. UCF one play for 65 yards, and then all of a sudden, like I think it was 35-10 was like their biggest lead, and then final score 36-35. So like, what exactly happened that allowed Baylor to get back into the game?
Yeah, UCF absolutely dominated for 3 quarters, and then a defensive touchdown, a short field, and then another play, back to back to back drives, just completely reversed the game, and it was tied at or 35-33 all of a sudden.
Wild. Did the second half change how you think about Baylor, or was it more of an indictment on UCF's game management? Like, did they just collapse?
A bit of both. I think Blake Shapen had some really good throws late. Um, was dotting some people up, but I think UCF, when John Rice Plumlee comes back, is going to be much better. That backup quarterback just completely lost his space late in that game. He had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I think that happened. It wasn't a blown lead, but I think that probably happened to some extent in Manhattan last weekend, where they were in it, and it seemed like the quarterback wasn't making plays. Timmy McClain for UCF, he had a good first half. Like they had a really explosive pass offense against Kansas State in the first half, and then it just kind of seemed to tail off a little bit. But I think by now,
Did you see? Did you speaking of McLean? Did you see the long fourth down conversion?
no.
He ran back 30 yards and then threw a 50-yard pass for a first down. He's
Jeez.
in the end zone.
No, the only thing I saw walking out of the Jones today, I saw them like line up for their last field goal and miss. So I haven't seen highlights or anything yet, but I want to go back and look because I want to see how Shapen looked. Obviously, that's Texas Tech's next opponent, and I think by now Plumlee is probably close to coming back. I mean, he's been out now for I think 4 weeks, so I don't know. Maybe they'll get some relief soon. Um, we'll move along here on Gauchos After Dark, sponsored by Barnett, Howard, and Williams. Before we go to the next game, we got Justin Apodaca in. Justin, what do you got for us tonight?
Not a whole lot. I was just thinking that I wanted to jump in with the fourth down conversion. That was probably one of the craziest things I've seen all season. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it because that was really something. Outside of that, I have some thoughts on Tech, but I don't know if we're getting into that yet.
We'll get those from you at the end if you don't mind sticking with us a few more minutes. Try to
Yeah,
try to go quick through the rest. Um, it looked like Kansas was hanging tough with Texas for a little while. I think it was maybe 13-7 for a while, then 20-13 for a while, something like that, and then Texas pulled away. Uh, their total stats at the end of the game looked incredible. I think they had like 600 yards of total offense. They had a 300-yard passer, a 200-yard rusher, and a 100-yard receiver, if I'm not mistaken. Second time.
Yeah, there's a moment late in that game. It's 20-7 or 20-14, maybe 21-14, whatever it was. 4th and 1, Kansas runs the triple option, and Bean can't get the ball back out of the bucket of the running back, High Sean. He drops it on the floor. Just run the ball.
Did Jalen Daniels play at all?
No, he's a late scratch.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's another one that obviously kicked off the same time as Tech, and so I was only seeing score updates in the stadium, but need to watch
Yeah.
highlights.
Is
Um,
Chuck in here?
is Tyler Shuck in here?
No, Chuck.
Oh,
Chuck, if he is, we need to yeah, is Tyler Shuck in here? Get his ass out of here. Just kidding. Jokes. That was a joke. Um, we need to watch that Texas Kansas game if anybody picked it in Picks with Friends.
Chuck is at the range, or at least he was when I started this, but
Oh,
I don't think he's in the spaces. But I walked really far away from our group to try to get to a quieter spot, so I don't know if he's still here. Texas still the odds-on favorite to win the conference, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Hate to say it, but that seems to be the case. Big one next weekend. I don't know what people thought coming into the season what OU would be, but I think they've, you know, certainly improved from last year, and they're going to get to the Red River game undefeated. So that's a big time matchup. I think the winner of that game is certainly on a great trajectory to Arlington. The loser might be on thin ice, but honestly, I think the middle of the Big 12 is so jumbled. Either team could lose one and maybe still have an insurance loss and make it at 7-2 or something at the end of the year. So I think that's shaping up to be a good game. I expect the spread to be less than a touchdown, probably Texas by 4 or 5 if I had to guess. Oklahoma and Iowa State did not go how I thought it would at all. I was thinking low scoring based on Oklahoma's offensive output against SMU and Cincinnati and Iowa State's defensive output against basically everybody. And instead, I guess I'd have to double check the final here. I think OU covered the 20 points and it went way over the total, which I think was 45, 46. 50-20 final. So Oklahoma covers and they go over by 20 something points.
Yeah, that was a game I thought would go under. Oklahoma scoring 50 surprised me. You mentioned the preseason thoughts based to where they are now. I think they're moderately better than everyone thought they would be, or at least better than I thought they would be. I still think Texas can win by 15 next weekend, though.
Yeah, I think that's more likely than the other way around. I think Texas has just been a lot more consistent, and obviously the win in Tuscaloosa is far and away the best win, among either of those two schools. So I think they're more tested for a game like that, an environment like that. I guess let's get into that. We'll predict our opening lines for next weekend now. That covers all the Big 12 games. This goes by so much faster when everybody's playing each other instead of non-con games. Okay, the first one is another Friday nighter. Kansas State goes to Stillwater against Oklahoma State. I think they were both off this weekend. Any guess at the opening line here?
8.
I was going to take the other side of 7 and say Kansas State by 6. I and I would I think your spread is probably closer to the outcome, but I just don't know. I think Stillwater will still get some respect as a
Yeah.
tough road environment. So, but yeah, I think we're close there. I think it'll be close to a touchdown. Oklahoma and Texas in the Red River game. I think, like I said, Texas by 4 or 5 sounds about right.
Yeah, 4 or 5. I'm down with that.
What's interesting is I just pulled up FPI, and they've actually got it tilted toward OU right now. They've got OU as a 54% chance to win.
Oh, wow.
And I think preseason it was more like Texas 75%. So I don't know. Maybe we'll be surprised at the opening line there. But also, I think FPI is usually pretty close, but there are certainly discrepancies some weeks. So curious to see where that one opens. Let's see. UCF at Kansas. Not sure. I think the huge question mark here is either team's quarterback healthy. In Lawrence, man, I'll say like Kansas -2.
Yeah, it's got to be close. I don't know on that one.
I don't
I
know
mean, if
either.
Jason Bean is playing, -2 sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it could be a huge swing if one team has their starter and the other doesn't, or both have their starter or both don't. Like I could see this being all over the map. So I don't feel good about that at all. But I guess I'll stick with that. Mostly just because it's in Lawrence and UCF choked so bad today. They already lost in the state of Kansas once this year. I don't know. TCU at Iowa State. Another one that it's kind of hard to peg with both teams coming off a loss. I think TCU will be favored by 4.
Yeah, I'm 4 or 5. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel good about really any of these. And then the last one, the Butt Bowl on the Brazos. Had the second half in Orlando today gone like the first half did, I would have thought Tech would be a somewhat substantial favorite. Like, I don't know if by a touchdown, but I would have thought it, kind of heavy, like 5-6. Now I think maybe slight road favorite, maybe like Tech 2.5.
Yeah, you think Baylor still gets a pick them there, or you
I,
think it'll be 2.5?
I don't know. Like, on one hand, as a fan that knows our history on the road, I don't want to give us a ton of respect going on the road, but I also just don't know if Baylor is that good at all.
Yeah,
So, I'm not a handicapper. I don't feel really confident about any of these. So, feel free to roast me when these are way off.
will do.
Okay, so that mostly wraps us up. We'll still get around to any questions or comments the rest of you have. Justin, you want to give us some Texas Tech thoughts before we wrap up here?
Sure. Thought you ran the ball pretty well today. It was refreshing. Um, very happy to see Cameron Valdez get the kind of run that he did. You've heard about it all off season. I mentioned it on our board when he scored the touchdown. It's more than just words in a press conference. It's actually real. It's there. That was nice to see. And defense did a really, really good job in the second half because your offense kind of quieted down. And honestly, I think Morton played pretty well for, you know, situations, the situation he was in, the shoulder and everything, because some of those throws deep were not great, but man, he got the ball where he needed to. Didn't really cause any issues, and obviously, you come out a winner and hopefully go down to Waco and get another one.
Yeah, agreed on all fronts. I love that Brooks and Valdez have such different running styles that it actually feels like a true change of pace. Huge fan of Sir Roderick Thompson, but I thought him and Taj were pretty similar kind of runners. And,
Yep.
Valdez's stat line says it all. 5 carries for 106 yards. Like, you can't have a stat line like that unless you're a legit home run threat. And he had the long touchdown. He had the long run that he was tackled with the horse collar penalty. It's like, man, if he can flash like this with any amount of frequency. Meanwhile, Taj, getting 80% of the carries is gashing him for 4, 6, 8, 10 every time he touches it. That's a great combo to have, and we needed it today with Morton being limited, and I thought he managed it well. The first half was a total shootout, and we needed to be efficient on offense, and I think it was three possessions, 3 touchdowns from the offense in the first half, and you were about to lose pace with them really fast if you weren't keeping up like that. And then, as well as the defense played in the second half, you kind of just were able to play keep away, run some clock a little bit. So it was cool to see that they were able to rally and play the kind of game that they needed to get it done with everything going on. Ty, you've got your hand raised. What do you think?
Oh, I was going to let you wrap up. I was just going to confirm, because you guys asked earlier, Cincinnati and Houston do play each other in the likely Big 12 Sicko Bowl here in a few weeks. So I just wanted to let everyone know they're pretty bad. I still think Baylor is pretty bad. Yeah, that was like I said, I know y'all got to wrap up. So that was all I was going to mention. Everyone, stay off the Tech Facebook groups and hold your head up. We got to win
We're
today.
back, baby.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll get to find out how bad Baylor is next weekend, for better or for worse. Rob, I think that's all I have on Gauchos After Dark, sponsored by Barnett, Howard, and Williams. Do you have any final thoughts for the people?
We're not crying into our pillows tonight. We got a win, a big win. It's been a good weekend. Last weekend, everybody lost. This weekend, Texas Tech wins, Notre Dame wins. Everybody I'm following. So, hey, it's been a good time. Go Cowboys.
And our Rangers are in the postseason.
Hell yeah, we're playing in October, baby.
Let's go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We do this every Saturday night, and it's our weekly look around the Big 12. We'll be back tomorrow night with our extended thoughts on Texas Tech versus Houston. But thanks for hanging out with us here. Appreciate y'all following and listening. Have a good rest of your weekend. Talk to you soon. Love y'all.